AITA for refusing to take in my orphan nephews and niece. My sister, who is 33, and her husband, who's 36, passed away not too long ago, leaving behind their 3 children, male 14, male 12, and female 8. We live in a pretty small town of under 2,000 people, and their deaths kind of shocked the community. Everyone is talking about it. Their memorials were up in the grocery store the day after they passed. Another thing is everyone is wondering what will happen to their kids, and the expectation seems to be that I will take them in. My circumstances: I am male 23, I am single and have no kids of my own. I have no income, and live off student loans while going to university in the next town over, getting my bachelor's. I live in a mobile home in a trailer park. It's a 40-feet trailer, but still only a 1-bedroom. I own it, but I pay rent on the land it's on. My main reason for not taking them in is that I don't want to. I don't want kids of my own, and I don't think I'm in a place to take care of them. I've been told that money has been put aside to help, so I wouldn't be keeping us all alive off my loans, but it's only partly about the money. It's about not having the space they need, interrupting my studies to take care of them, and suddenly becoming the caregiver of 3 humans all on my own. It's a big job that I don't feel I measure up to. I was posed the question by my parents. They in a different country and can't help, and the kids want to stay here anyway. Friends of my sister's family all have children of their own, usually in batches of 2 to 3 themselves, and can't afford to take more on either. They say I should do it because I don't have kids already. It'll be good practice for my future children. It's my duty to my flesh and blood. I'm young, the kids need me, and don't have anywhere else to go. I told my parents that they can crash on my living room furniture for a while, until other arrangements are made for them, but I won't be able to take care of them permanently. My parents think I'm an idiot for refusing. My sister and brother-in-law's friends think I'm an idiot. Even some of my friends think I'm in the wrong. Word has started to spread around town that I'm an idiot. People have come up to me to tell me what they think of me for refusing to take in my nephews and niece. Worse, the kids think I'm an idiot for abandoning them. I've been told horror stories about the foster care system and told that I'm giving them up to it, that they'll be separated, we'll lose them and never get them back, and that I'm a monster for not doing it, that I am selfish. They're ashamed of me. My mother told me that if I don't take them, they'll have nothing more to do with me because of how horrified they are. It seems harsh. Part of me feels like I don't deserve to be told these things just because I don't want to. I'm not able to take care of these kids. The other part agrees with them. Have I been the idiot in this situation? Edit. I sat down and ran the numbers about my finances, and this is what I come up with, for anyone interested. The amount of money left behind to help raise them is 25,000 Canadian dollars, and I think that's around 19k USD. I don't think it would be possible to raise 3 kids to 18 on that amount, especially not because one of them will be 10 years away. I would need to supplement that with a job, definitely. But I am 3 years into my bachelor's and have accumulated quite a lot of debt that I would also need to pay off if I stop going to school. As for my student loans, I will break down those finances. After my tuition is paid, I am left with about 8k for the time school is on and the break month in between semesters. My rent for this plot is 550, so of that 8k, 2k goes to rent every 4 months, leaving me 6k to buy food, gas, insurance, etc. All told I have 8k a year to purchase needs. I don't know if this matters, but the poverty line for families with 2 adults and 2 children is 30k Canadian dollars. Obviously, with 1 adult and 3 children, still 4 people, at 8k to work with, is well below poverty. Because of all that, and all of your guys' responses, I have tentatively figured I am not the idiot. My plan going forward will be to try and sit down with the kids, at least the oldest, and talk to him about my finances to hopefully show him that it's not because I don't care about him and his siblings that I don't take him, but because there is no chance they will have a good life with me as their guardian. I will also tell my parents all about my finances. Hopefully, if they see the resources I have available, they will stop on this crusade to get me to take them in and accept that they will need to step in if they want the kids to stay together. I feel like even if I tried to take them, the government would just take them away anyway. Also, while I was out, someone keyed the poop out of my car, lol, so I think I will have to move if people don't calm down. Update. So, almost a month later, you probably will not be proud, as I am not proud either, but this is what has happened. I withdrew completely from all discussion of the kids unless I was reached out to by someone, usually my parents. Talking to them was pretty hopeless. Some of their favorite talking points were, you can put your school aside and pick it up when they've moved out. It's only 10 years. It doesn't matter that you don't want children. It's not your choice to make. You're not a man if you don't help these kids. It's your responsibility to the children and to your sister. The children will go to foster care and be split up, and that is your fault. They dodged all discussion of finances by saying that either my student loans will cover it, or I'll just have to get a real job and stop being a spoiled intellectual, in the sense that I belong to the intelligentsia, not that I am smart or anything. They definitely used it as an insult, or that my siblings put money aside for the kids. When I told them that the money they put aside is only 25k Canadian, or 19k USD, they told me that is the perfect amount for raising kids on. Eventually I clued in that arguing with them is useless, and started to only repeat one thing: you take them and then No matter what they said, I countered it with you take them and then, sometimes adding on things like if it's selfish not to take them, you take them and then. This is part of what I was least proud of as it was very immature of me. I'm sure they wanted to wear me down into accepting. Truthfully, it was you guys who gave me the idea, as well as told me to stand my ground, and for that I am grateful. Finally they raged out and told me I was disowned. Forget you are our son. Forget your family. We refuse to have such a monster in the family. Forget how to speak our language because it's not your country anymore. We will cut you out of every picture that has you in it. You will know what it means to be rejected by your family like you have rejected those children, etc. Last I heard there was plane tickets in the works to bring them to my parents. So I guess I am off the hook with them, so to speak. Honestly, I am done with the whole family, kids included. If they want to hate me over this, then I guess they hate me. Closer to home, things have been rough. I spent the time sorting out who I could still count as friends. The town itself I have completely written off. My car was a POS anyway, so people kept keying it and it didn't matter. I ended up moving as I was definitely no longer welcome here. Ultimately, I don't feel like I won or that I have a happy ending to share, even though things have ended and everything is resolved. So there is your update. I hope it is closure for those of you interested in how this ended up playing out. You're the idiot. The kids have nowhere to go and you're worried about your free time. They deserve a home and you are taking that away from them. You need to do some serious thinking and self-reflection, not the idiot. When you say you are immature for repeating the same words you take them in, you're not. This is called the broken record method, and it works wonders on people who constantly change their narrative, as your parents were doing. I'm sorry to hear all the problems you went through, but you managed them all. Things will get better. Should he have taken in the kids? Let me know in the comments. Now, AITA for calling off my wedding last minute. I recently got engaged to the man of my dreams in April 2019. Set to be married in September of 2020. Even before we got engaged, my fiance and I agreed that we were going to keep it on the smaller side and only invite our close friends, family. Now, I have 4 other siblings that I'm not close to. I only talk to one and that's putting it lightly. I've chosen not to invite the remaining 3 and only invite the one that I speak to. My mother wasn't particularly pleased, but she understood at the time. We already went through bullshit with his side of the family due to the fact that I didn't want to invite everyone from his side of the family, which would be an additional 60 plus people to our list. My fiance and I had already had a list of everyone he wanted to invite on his side of the family and mine. It was a huge thing where we eventually compromised on inviting a large portion. But not all. They essentially threatened to not help pay for the wedding, so I felt a bit bullied into giving in. Flash forward to the past few weeks. My mother has had a falling out with the one sibling I speak to and now wants me to invite one of the ones who I have literally no relationship with. I've told her no many times and to please be civil and respect my wishes. Today, she threw the fact that we are inviting my fiance's family to the wedding, though it was a different scenario in my opinion, and said she isn't coming to the wedding unless I invite him. At this point, I'm over all of it. I haven't been able to enjoy being engaged because it's been family drama and I'm not even looking forward to planning the wedding. We have planned a large portion and most of everything has been paid for out of our pocket. I suggested we just cancel the damn thing and elope to my fiance, and he agreed. Would I be the idiot to cancel it and just elope? Update, hello, all. It's been some time since I laid out all the bullshit my fiance and I were dealing with in regards to planning our wedding and such. We were so overwhelmed with the immense response and support, so thank you to everyone who contributed and offered advice. Now, on to what happened. My fiance and I talked it through, the pros and cons, etc. We both realized how unhappy we were with how things were going and decided that we were going to cancel the wedding and move forward with eloping. We decided that we didn't want it to be just us, but a small group of family and friends as well. We were both ecstatic, but also extremely worried at how our parents were going to take it, especially considering our guest list went from over 120 people to 20. But we were both committed and he decided to tell his parents and I would then tell mine. Surprisingly, his parents were so supportive and extremely ecstatic that we were getting eloped. They were even more excited when we let them know we wanted them there and they booked their flight soon after. They also handled telling their families and friends in Texas that we were eloping and to get over it. So, that saved us the trouble. His other family was very supportive and wished us the best. My father also was incredibly supportive and couldn't wait to be there. My mother, on the hand, was furious. The phone call to her started off calmly enough and I did let her know before beginning the conversation that she most likely wouldn't enjoy this. But I pressed forward. I told her our reasons, our stresses, how we felt disrespected and disregarding concerning everything. I laid it all out in a calm and collected manner. Once finished, she was very quiet and simply said, "All right." I knew immediately that I was pretty well fricked, but we ended the phone call with her stating she understood. Less than 24 hours later, she texts me asking if my brother, whom one of our biggest stressors was invited. I was pissed because I had just had this conversation with her and explicitly told her who was invited and etc. I responded back with a simple no and that my father, grandmother and herself were invited. Well, poop hit the fan. She sent me a wall of texts, calling me all sorts of names, throwing my fiance's family in my face and how we took their side, how I never truly gave a poop about her feelings, all the good stuff. I remained calm and before sending each response, consulted my fiance as to not sound like a total witch. Long story short, she said unless my brother is invited, she won't be coming. So, I told her not to come. I was over it and stopped responding to her texts. For days she texted me, saying all the same as before and kept asking if my brother was invited. I responded once and told her that until she apologized, she won't. That I wouldn't be seeing or speaking to her about anything regarding the wedding. I offered an open seat to our wedding. Whether she shows or not is completely up to her. My fiance and I have already booked a small venue for our elopement and are more excited planning this than our previous wedding and are looking forward to our future. Not the idiot. Good for you. Unless your mother is entirely unreasonable, she might still come around. Once she realizes that this is actually happening, and her hysterics won't change your mind. The prospect of missing her daughter's wedding will hit home. And if she doesn't, that's unfortunate. But is that really the energy you want at your wedding? Not the idiot. But he didn't elope, you had a smaller wedding. The definition of eloping is to run away to secretly get married. You telling people just makes this a small wedding. Whatever, hope you and your husband are happy. Are they wrong for not inviting the brother? Let me know in the comments. Now, AITA for not allowing my sister near my bearded dragon after doing a TikTok trend with him. I, female, 18, have a bearded dragon named Phil who I have had for about 1 year now. Phil is deeply loved by me and my family. My sister, female, 15, who I will call Jane, really likes to make TikToks of Phil, which I have completely no problem with since they're normally just videos of Phil running around or doing something silly like opening his mouth when he basks. Yesterday my sister came up to me to show me a TikTok she had made of Phil. There is a trend on TikTok of putting butter on dogs as some audio plays over it of this guy saying butter dog. Well, Jane showed me a video of her putting some soft butter on Phil so that she could follow the trend. When I saw that I became very upset. I had seen a video recently of someone explaining how doing this trend with bearded dragons can be dangerous cause the butter will stick to their skin and if they get put back under their basking light the butter will heat up and basically burn the bearded dragon's skin. I told Jane to delete the video and that she can't do stuff like that with Phil and quickly got him out from under his basking light that she had put him back under after the video. And started to bathe him in the tub to try and get off any of the butter she didn't wipe off. My sister came and told me I was overreacting and that it's just a fun trend. It snapped at her and told her I'm not letting her near Phil until she apologizes to me and promises to not do trends like these with Phil again, and asked me every time she wants to make a video with Phil. My sister got angry and told me she wasn't apologizing for just wanting to have fun with Phil and that I can't take Phil away from her. After I finished making sure all the butter was off I put him back in his tank that's in my room and told her she's not allowed to come in and take Phil. My parents found out this morning and told me I was out of line for what I did and that it was just an innocent video. They told me I need to stop freaking out so much over things that involve Phil. My sister said she's not apologizing cause she didn't know it would hurt Phil so I should get over it and let her see Phil again. I feel like I can't trust her with Phil though. If she hadn't shown me the video Phil would have sat in his tank getting burned under his basking light. And I wouldn't even know until it was too late. I think I might be the idiot cause I could be overreacting like my family say I am and for yelling at her when she didn't know that doing the trend would hurt Phil. So Reddit, am I the idiot here? Mini update. I'm just gonna answer a question I've been getting a lot. Yes, I did tell her and my parents why it was dangerous to put butter on his head. I'm gonna sit them down sometime today or tomorrow and try to explain to them today with evidence to show them why what my sister did wasn't just a fun trend but could have hurt or killed Phil. I also ordered a lock for his tank. Thank you everyone for the awards and support. I'm gonna be sitting down and reading all the new comments once I finish my online work update. So after my last post and getting all your feedback, I had ordered a lock for Phil's tank and put it on once I got it so that my sister couldn't just get him. I waited a bit to see if my sister would apologize but she didn't. So I sat down both my parents and sister to go over again why I wasn't allowing her to see Phil and how what she did was not okay. I had made a slideshow and everything about how putting butter on bearded dragons was in fact not a harmless trend. I told her that I wasn't mad at her for doing it since she didn't know but I was upset over how she reacted. It took a lot of explaining and I even used some advice you guys gave me on how to best explain it, and after a lot of talking and a bit of arguing it seemed they finally all got it. My sister got upset and apologized to me for how she reacted and seemed genuinely upset after she realized what she did to Phil. My parents also apologized for not taking my side and scolding me for what rules I set in place. The lock is still staying on the tank just in case, but my sister is now allowed to see him and play with him if she asks me, and she's not allowed to make any more videos of Phil without me being there to watch. She seems a bit irritated about the rules but she follows the rules. I also got her to take down the video off of TikTok and she ended up making a video on how what she did was stupid and that to not do what she did, which I'm very pleased with. She has gone back to making her harmless videos of Phil just running and playing and all is going well now. I also want to thank Reddit again for the advice and reassurance that what I was doing wasn't wrong since I honestly was pretty lost at that time. Not the idiot. That is frustrating. You had to put in so much work just to make people understand that their actions could hurt a living thing. I am glad it all worked out for you though. You sound like a wonderful pet owner. Not the idiot. You may have saved Phil from future possibly dangerous videos, but you have also taught your sister a very valuable lesson in accountability. Her actions have consequences. May it be unknowingly hurting an animal or spreading a video that might inspire other kids to make the same mistake. She did an action and you gave a consequence. That's life. AITA if I don't want to share my wedding necklace. My family's reactions are very mixed, so I thought I would ask Reddit. Some background first. I, female, 37, have been married to my husband, age 36, male, for nearly 2 years now. We live in Canada. He's Canadian and I moved here 3 years ago. Prior to that I was born and brought up in India. Neither of us is very religious or traditional, and I'm openly deist. Both our families are somewhat religious but not very devout. They had a few reservations about us, but so far it's all been great. For our wedding, we had small wedding ceremonies in both cultures and a party afterwards, and my husband's family quite enjoyed participating in all the pre-wedding functions for the Indian part. On to the problem. As part of the Indian wedding, my husband had to place a mangalsutra around my neck. A mangalsutra is a gold necklace with black beads, and in our culture it's equivalent to a wedding ring but only for the women. I don't like them, because they're sexist, and because they're chunky, ugly and don't go with anything. I told my mother not to get me this, and not to include it in the ceremony because it's an expensive waste. I won't wear it, and it's like a white elephant. I can't give it away or sell it. I have to keep it. My mother, being the smart cookie that she is, worked with my cousin to have one with a modern design. Custom made for me. It's stylish, minimalist and goes with almost everything, and I love it. I still don't wear it all the time, but quite frequently. As a contrast, I wear my wedding ring all the time, because my husband wears one too and because I like wearing rings. The problem I'm having is with H's sister EE, and I get along quite well, and I'm quite keen on fostering a good relationship with my in-laws because all my family is back in India. E loved the design of my mangalsutra and wanted to borrow it. Now, I'm not religious at all, but no one can shed the influence of their culture completely, and it's the same for me. For me, the mangalsutra is a symbol of my matrimony, and not something that can just be lent out, especially not to my husband's sister. I've offered to have something similar made for her, but she says she doesn't want us to go through the trouble or the expense for something she only wants to wear once or twice. The reason I think AITA is that I can see her point. I am a logical person, and logically I have no reason to refuse, and I can't just pick and choose the things I want to be logical about. But emotionally, for me, the necklace is like underwear. You may or may not wear it, but you don't share it. FTR, I'd have the same feelings about it if it were of the traditional design and I didn't like it as much as I do. I've tried to explain this to her. It's not something we've fought about, and she always accepts a refusal graciously, but she doesn't stop asking. It's like she thinks after a reasonable time passes it'll be okay for her to borrow it. So Reddit, am I the idiot? Update. So, my first post here a few days back received a huge response, and I'm deeply thankful to everyone who responded. I had to wait a few days to post an update as per the rules, so here goes. A few hours after the post went up, I got a call from my other sister-in-law C. She came across my post and guessed it was me because I gave away too many details, I guess, and just called me to ask straight out. And several details I didn't know came to light. 1. During the wedding planning stages I had complained to E and C about not liking mangalsutras and not wanting one for myself, and that I didn't know how to explain that to my mom. They didn't understand that even though I didn't like them as a concept, if I had one, it would still be culturally important to me. 2. I was laughing when I made the wedding ring analogy. They thought I was joking. 3. All three of us have borrowed, lent items to one another before, so really asking for something a second, third, or how many ever times had never been an issue that, combined with what they knew about my personal beliefs, genuinely made them think that I would be okay with lending it out after an appropriate amount of time had passed, which is why he kept asking. C realized the problem after reading both the post and mine and everyone's comments. Another commenter mentioned to me privately in DMs that he actually probably really wanted one for her own, but was too polite to accept when I offered to have one made for her. This turned out to be true, C told me. He really loved the design of the necklace but was too shy to say yes when I offered to get her one. So we have made a plan. It's too late to get it for her for Christmas, but she has a landmark birthday coming up. We've reached out to the person who made mine and are getting one custom made for her. We'll change the design a bit to make it look like not a mangalsutra, and incorporate some elements that she likes and gift it to her for her birthday. Thank you so much to everyone who commented for your advice, kind words and support, and I'm happy to report a very happy ending. Not the idiot, but go ahead and have something made for her. Explain that in your culture, it is something very personal and every bride should have one, whether they wear it or not, like a wedding dress or wedding ring. Then tell her that you are honored to share your culture with her, and she's the closest thing you've got to a sister in a 1,000-mile radius, and you like to think of her passing down to your niece someday. AITA for not taking in my pregnant sister. I, 23, female, don't want to let my 21-year-old pregnant sister move into my apartment. Her and her husband, I'll call him A, had recently fallen out and are taking a break from each other. He left my sister's place and moved in somewhere else, and she recently got evicted. Bit of backstory. I let her stay at my place twice earlier in the pregnancy when she and I were still together. She made a disaster, left food stains on the bedsheets and left her dirty clothes and dishes all over the place, and got mad when I called her out. A refuses to take her in, and my sister is blaming me for not housing her, even though she got evicted because she didn't pay the rent. My place isn't a penthouse or anything cool, but she's messy, lazy, and doesn't have a job. She's due in a month and wanted to stay at least another 4 months, and I really don't want to have a screaming infant in my house, especially because I have extremely early shifts as a paramedic. After I told her no and apologized, she called me every name under the sun and told our parents. They called me absolutely pissed, despite not wanting to take her in either, and demanded I give her the guest bedroom until she and I get back together. Side note, I'm paying for this place fully, not my parents or sister. When I said that I wouldn't do that, they called me disgusting and said that they didn't want anything to do with me until I took her in. I was also told that I'm not welcome at their house or any family functions like Christmas or Thanksgiving. Am I the idiot? It's been almost 2 months since my last post. Quick summary, I didn't let my pregnant sister move into my apartment, she got upset and so on. After the post, my mother and sister threatened to call my boss and have me fired. Thankfully, as a paramedic, my boss knows bullshit when he hears it. I still have my job. I decided to cut off all contact from my parents and sister, despite them being biologically related to me. Her child was born and is around 1 month old, I'm assuming. I don't even know the gender of her child or the name. I'm honestly okay with it. Now, I wouldn't have minded having a relationship with my niece, nephew, but I already know the child would have grown up hating me, as taught by my sister. As for her living situation, I honestly don't know. Last I know is that our aunt let her stay for a week. I haven't heard from her since a little after my last post. My life has been a lot better since then, and I feel I made the best choice by cutting them off. Throughout all of this, I realized family doesn't always mean you have to be related by blood. Family can be whoever you make it, and I met some of the best people these last few years, who to me are family. I wouldn't have been able to do it without the help of you guys, so thank you all. You're the idiot. Some people are so heartless. They get caught up, and I just need to look after myself that they forget about those who are closest to them. In 15 years' time, you will regret this and you will be alone. Not the idiot. Good for you. I had to cut off my sister 18 months ago. It was hard, but my God, my life is infinitely better. She also had a child in that time. I have no relationship with him, but I'm told by my niece that she regularly curses me out to him, a literal baby. She has tried getting to me through various avenues, including my work. But all in all, I'm good. Keep doing you. You only get one life after all. Should she have taken in her sister? Let me know in the comments. Now, AITA for getting upset with my girlfriend because she doesn't want to go out when she's on her period. Okay, everyone seems to think I'm an idiot, but please hear me out. For some context on our relationship, my girlfriend is great. We've been living together for about 3 months now, and everything's been going pretty swell. She's usually very funny and laid back, just nice overall. The only hiccup in our relationship is the entire period thing. For the first 2 or so days when she gets her period, she doesn't want to do anything. She just comes home from work and curls up on the couch and stays there for the rest of the day, complaining about her stomach. Even if we had plans to do things, she just cancels them. I can't even properly schedule around it because her period seems to come at a semi-random time every month. It really sucks, but I know that girls get cramps and poop during Shark Week, so whatever. I usually put up with it. But this one time I got impatient. I'd reserved dinner at Little Italy in advance and had movie tickets for afterwards. I dressed up nice and waited for her to come home from work. I got off earlier than her. It was supposed to be our special date night. I'd planned this week in advance. She knew about this week's in advance, but she started her period that day, and once she got home she said she was just going to stay home, and I'd have to scrap all the plans. Back to curling up on the couch sipping iced tea while watching Netflix. I told her, and not angrily mind you, though maybe a little passive-aggressively, that I know other women, I have lived with other women before, and that none of them act like this ever, even when they're on their periods. So I'm at least a weensy bit justified in thinking she could put forward a little more effort into this and go at least for me. And she lost her poop like I've never seen before. My ordinarily sweet and kind girlfriend blew her top and called me an idiot, son of a witch, piece of poop, etc., and I was in shock. She started crying after that, which is something she almost never does, and locked herself up in her room, and we haven't talked directly since then. I have no idea what to say, and I am honestly quite upset. Did I really do something so terrible by telling her that? Am I the idiot? Update. So the general consensus was that I was being a raging idiot, though a few thought I was just ignorant. It's been a while since I made that post, and my own conclusion is that I am probably both. I've done a lot of thinking about my behavior that week, and I've realized a lot of things. This isn't something that I wrote in my original post because it was off topic and sounded like I was just making excuses for myself, but my dad had passed away earlier that week and I had been in a terrible mood. I wasn't acting like myself at all. Instead of coping in a healthy way, I'd been looking to my girlfriend for a pick-me-up and unfairly blaming her when she failed to deliver, for a reason completely out of her control. The date wasn't really for her, it was for me. And that's what I'd been trying to avoid thinking about. I was behaving very selfishly and trying to convince myself that I was just upset because this problem had happened before. The truth was, her period getting in the way of dates had never really bothered me before this time around. I was just looking for reasons to justify my own anger. That was extremely immature of me, to say the least. I apologized to my girlfriend and, because she's an angel, she accepted the apology. Because of the comments suggesting she may have a medical problem, I asked her if she had PCOS or endometriosis, and surprisingly enough, she said that she had never been examined for either. We went to have her examined and it turns out that she has PCOS, which essentially means she has cysts in her ovaries, which explains the irregular periods and extreme pain during them. So yeah, I felt horribly guilty about blaming her for that. Luckily, she has not seen some of the other symptoms of it, weight gain and hair growth, but she is pretty worried that they will appear. She'll be getting regular treatment from now on, so I'm hopeful that she will see some relief soon. Would you have dumped this boyfriend? Let me know in the comments. Now, AITA for refusing to cry in front of my girlfriend. I'm a 22-year-old man, raised by a very traditional single dad. Among the many ideals my dad instilled into me was that crying was a sign of weakness in men, so, most of the time, my dad would reprimand me if I came to him crying. It'd range from small things, like spilling juice on my pants, to being bullied at school. He said if you're breaking down about these issues, you're never going to make it in life. I would hide my tears like an alcoholic would hide booze, and, eventually, I grew up to be the strong silent type in school and in adulthood. If being emotional meant hurting myself or someone else, it seemed better to just not show them at all. Fast forward a few years. I have this GF, Katie, that I'd been seeing for a few months. Most girls were turned off by me being so reserved, but Katie had this talent for seeing that I wasn't just mean or cold to people. I was hurting. She treated me like a decent human, so I did my best to be a gentleman to her while still staying reserved. My dad told me it was important that a man never let his own feelings keep him from protecting and being respectful to women. About a week ago, Katie called saying her mom died in the hospital due to complications from the Rona, and asked me to come to the funeral. Her body was cremated to avoid attendees getting sick. Now, I never knew what having a mom was like, so as the preacher described Katie's mom during the sermon, it sounded like everything I wished I had as a kid. Someone who was gentle and nurturing, who'd understand my feelings rather than criticize them, someone who'd let me cry on their shoulder like I'd done for Katie many times. It was overpowering. I felt the tears coming on, and Katie looked at me in surprise. By force of habit, I didn't dare let myself cry. I took a deep breath, swallowed the lump in my throat, and just gave Katie another hug. After the service, I drove Katie home. It was pretty quiet until, out of nowhere, she went off on me. She said I cared more about looking like a macho man who didn't cry than letting her know how I felt. She said things like, "I'm sorry your dad is stuck in the Stone Age, and I've opened up to you so much, but you never do the same for me. And is your male ego really that fragile?" I just said, "Enough," or "Please stop." But she wouldn't. Normally, I'm not fazed by someone berating me. "Thank you, Dad." But after a while, I couldn't take it anymore. I just let her vent at me until I stopped at her house and said, "Cold as ice, get out." She seemed to get the hint that I was pissed and ran in her apartment like a scared child. Now, IDK if what I did was right anymore. It's become a habit of mine to avoid showing vulnerability. But maybe Katie has a point about having a male ego, whatever that means. Am I the idiot for refusing to cry in front of her? Update. Thank you all very much for your feedback in the original post. There were a variety of perspectives on this, but the general consensus seems to be that, while I'm not the idiot, it is bad for our relationship if I keep bottling up. You're right, it's not fair to me or Katie if she's looking for someone to relate to, and I refuse to give that to her, especially not when she's grieving. Also, thank you for being sympathetic with Katie's plight. She apologized for lashing out. She was just acting out of grief, not out of spite or a need to control me. Well, the situation has turned into one of the most profound moments of my life. As we were making amends, Katie gave me a copy of her mom's funeral on video. We both watched it together, and, this time, I found the courage to cry for the first time in 7.5 years. Hearing everyone describe Katie's mom had tapped into my inner child, the sad, lonely little boy longing for the warmth and affection that he didn't get from his only parent. Katie, despite her own grief, showed me nothing but kindness throughout my mental breakdown. All this time, I'd been seeing my own feelings as being invalid compared to hers. Katie just said, "My mom always made me feel safe whenever I was sad. Now I want to do the same for you." Bless her heart. Now, our relationship is stronger than ever. We're both looking after each other, but also seeking our own means of support to avoid being too dependent. I've finally started on my long overdue journey toward healing from my trauma and improving my mental health. I never would have reached this milestone if it weren't for the kind people of Reddit. I started from having no other outlet to having more options toward bettering myself than ever. Thank you all very much. Not the idiot. Having a partner who allows you to let out your emotions is healthy. I've always said that a good cry cleanses the soul. It's like taking all the things bottled up and just letting them go. I'm so glad Katie has helped you to see that being emotional doesn't mean that you are any less of a man. It means you're human. It's natural to have emotions and need to let them out. AITA for controlling what my kids wear. I am a dad to 3 kids, 15 female, 10 female, and 8 male. I love them more than anything and want to resolve this problem ASAP, as I hate fighting with them. I like to think that my wife and I have been good parents thus far. We are not extremely strict or helicopter parents. We do not limit screen time for my daughters. They all get a weekly allowance and are asked to do very minimal chores, cleaning their shared bathroom, washing their dishes, etc. The kids have had no issues with the way our household runs until now. Since my eldest was born, my wife and I have enforced a no pajama policy around the house. We consider it the same as taking off your shoes when you come inside. Pajamas are worn for sleeping, in their bedrooms, at night. They aren't allowed to wear them down into shared spaces, living room, kitchen, etc., or during times of the day when they're up and active, essentially anytime they aren't sleeping. This is to keep everyone from feeling lazy or like they have nothing to do, and also keeps everyone looking presentable and clean. We have been enforcing this rule a bit more ever since they switched to online school, as we don't want them falling asleep or becoming distracted during, in between class. The only exception is pajama night once a week, where we all wear pajamas and play board games or watch a movie together. My wife and I follow the same rule for the sake of fairness. A few days ago, my eldest came down for breakfast in her pajamas. I asked her to go back upstairs and change before joining us, and told her we would wait for her before we started eating. She refused, so I told her that she could either change out of her pajamas or go back to bed, as pajamas are for sleeping only. It ended in an argument between her, my wife, and I. She said the rule is unfair and ridiculous, and that we aren't allowed to control what she wears. She also claimed that she was uncomfortable in everything else because it was all too formal for breakfast. I told her I don't care what she changes into, so long as they aren't pajamas. She could wear sweatpants if she'd like, but the expectation we set in our house is that pajamas are for sleeping only. I also pointed out that we don't control what she wears out of the house, no pajamas, obviously, and within reason as they are still young. She stormed off to her room and won't speak to me or my wife. I am wondering if we are the idiot in this situation, as we are, to some degree, policing what our children wear around the house. But I also feel that it isn't a huge demand to make, especially since my wife and I also follow it, and generally don't ask much else of the kids. Edit. The rule does not apply when the kids go to their friends' houses, and we are more relaxed about it when they bring friends over to our house, though the rule isn't dropped completely. Edit 2. Yes, holidays are also an exception, including birthdays and days where one of the kids has something special to celebrate, an award, a good grade, etc. Thank you to the user who asked, reminded me. Also, I consider pajamas to be whatever you slept in. The kids are expected to change out of whatever they slept in. But if that means changing into lounge, leisure wear, or even a clean pair of pajamas, that's fine. Update. My daughter and I got back from the doctor a few hours ago, so I thought I'd update everyone, as my last post got a pretty large response. I'm a good dad, that's something I'm sure of. I love my kids, I try very hard to be a good parent, and I know I've done that. A few people commented on my post saying I was ruining my kids' lives, etc., which is not true in the slightest. That being said, I was somewhat wrong about the pajamas. As some people mentioned, changing out of pajamas acts as a reset for them and helps them acknowledge that they're starting their day. This is why my wife and I started the rule in the first place. But obviously things change over time. Shortly after getting my idiot title, I went to talk things out with my daughter, intending on figuring out a way to change the pajama policy so that we were all happy with it. I re-explained the reasoning behind the rule, shifting mindsets in the morning, and she ended up crying and told me that changing her mindset didn't matter because she can't stop falling asleep anyway. I asked her what she meant, and she explained that she's been falling asleep multiple times a day, even when she's changed out of her pajamas. My wife is close friends with a somnologist, so we set up an appointment and he spoke with my daughter. He recommended that she go for a polysomnography and MSLT sleep tests, and it turns out she has narcolepsy. We're currently discussing treatment options with her doctors to see how we can help her, but it's a big relief for her to know that there's a reason behind why she's been struggling with sleep. As for the pajamas, we sat down as a family and discussed it together. We all decided we want to keep the rule, but reworked it so the kids can eat breakfast in their pajamas, as long as they're changed and starting online school on time. Also, a lot of people asked why my wife and I don't limit my kids' screen time. We limit my son's, as he's a bit younger, but my daughters are extremely good at limiting their own. They're both bookworms and understand that too much screen time is harmful, so they don't spend a lot of time on their devices anyway, so my wife and I have never felt the need to step in. You're the idiot. I'm glad everyone came to an agreement, but that rule is still ridiculous. I want to get on with your day, but sometimes people just want to lounge around all day and just have a lazy day, and there is nothing wrong with that. Not the idiot. I completely disagree. These are standards that need to be set while kids are young. Self-respecting adults do not lounge around all day in their pajamas. Maybe you do, and that says a lot about who you are. Good on the father for creating good habits in his children. Do you think this dad is asking too much? Let me know in the comments. Now, AITA for telling my daughter the truth about why I wasn't in her life. To start, my ex and I were 19 when she got pregnant. We had recently broken up and she found out a couple weeks later that she was pregnant. She said she planned to get an abortion but only wanted her sister there. So I was always under the belief that she had aborted. She only contacted me once saying it was done and we didn't speak again. Fast forward 19 years later, I found out a month ago that was a lie. My ex passed away 3 years ago and my daughter Cara has been living with her uncle. He was the one to reach out to give me a heads up after she expressed an interest in wanting us to connect. He and I spoke at length because I was feeling some pretty strong emotions like rage for never being told about her. My ex had backed out of the abortion but didn't want me involved because we were broken up, so decided just not to tell me. But he told me that Cara doesn't know about that. Apparently I wasn't ready for fatherhood because we were both young, so I bailed. I couldn't believe it. Rob, her uncle, told me he knows his sister was wrong for that but promised Cara doesn't have any negative feelings towards me, and my ex never painted me as some villain. Just a young guy who knew he couldn't properly care for her. He asked me not to tell Cara this when we talk if she asks, and because it could hurt the way she saw her mom. I never actually confirmed I would. Cara messaged me and we've been talking. I've met her twice and it's been crazy emotional. Looking at this girl who looks just like me and hurting that we're just barely getting to know each other so far. Our conversations have only been about what her life was like, how my life is, what her wants, future goals are, and getting to know each other. We met again Tuesday and she finally decided to ask the obvious questions about what made me not be involved. How did I feel? What went through my mind? Did I ever think about her? Etc. I had been thinking about what to do, but at that moment I just didn't have it in me to lie, so I was honest. That I was told about the abortion. Had no idea she even existed until now, but that I still really want to be in her life and have the chance to be her father if she wants that. Cara was a bit emotional. We talked some more and said she still wants me involved. That night my messages were blowing up. Not just from Rob but her grandparents as well. They're all outraged for telling Cara about her mom because she yelled at all of them and is refusing to even take their calls. Yes, the lie was terrible, but I just ruined the image she had of her late mother for my own benefit. Rob called me a selfish prick for not taking into consideration how this would affect Cara finding out about this. So right now I feel like poop. I get honesty is the best policy, but in this case I don't know if I was an idiot for doing it. I'm still learning this whole dad business, so don't know if I dropped the ball here. Update. I made this post a couple months back and I wanted to share what's been going on. This was a really big mess and thank you for all your reassurance, for telling me that Cara deserved to know the truth. There was still some guilt I carried with me for days until she called me again now that she had time to process. Cara thanked me for being honest about what happened and we had a deep conversation about what she's going through. She and her mom always had a very strained relationship even until she passed away, so there was still a lot of anger and resentment she never got to have closure for. Now learning this new lie her mom told her about me ... well, it opened a lot of other mixed feelings. She has been in therapy even before her mother died to deal with their issues, so Cara is working this out with someone, which I am happy to know. Many of you were suggesting therapy for her, so at least she already had that down. My daughter's still mad at her family. She talked to them a couple times before stopping communication. Cara knows she'll forgive them eventually, but for right now, she says she wants them to live with the consequences, so hasn't had any contact with them. I did express my concern over her shutting them out, but she says it's not forever. She's still trying to process this betrayal and get to a place where she'll accept them back into her life. At the moment she's still living with her friend and wants to keep things that way. So far I have declined any financial help I offer. She just wants to work out her anger and let them sit with this for a while. I had to do some blocking still for my own peace of mind. Things are a work in progress, but I'm happy to report that we're getting along fine. Cara's been over so many times and has met my fiance. We're learning so much about each other, even if sometimes it's hard not to get emotional over childhood memories. She talks about knowing I couldn't be there for them. Still in the process of finding a therapist myself because this has been pretty heavy on me too, and still have no idea what the hell I'm doing as a parent. Thanks for your words of encouragement and all the advice from fellow parents. I kept getting asked for an update on this, so sorry it took me a while to remember to post something. Not the idiot. Cara was owed the truth about what happened. Her mother's family is only upset that they got caught out in participating in a damaging, hurtful lie. They don't care about how Cara feels about her mother, but only that she knows they willingly lied to her. You are a good dad to build the relationship slowly and let it be based on honesty. If you had lied and Cara found out, she would have huge issues with trusting anyone again. Not the idiot. Thank you so much for the update. You did do the right thing by stopping the generational lies Cara was living with. Her mom and that family did betray her and you. Cara sounds like she is doing the right thing for now and working through all this, as are you. I wish you both much luck. It's good you found each other. Should he have told her the truth? Let me know in the comments. Now's AITA for ruining my brother and his wife's pregnancy news with the news of my recent diagnosis. Bit of backstory. My brother and I are very close. His wife and I not so much. We've had our fair share of tension. Anyway, I feel sick in the middle of May, but held off getting checked out because of COVID and safety reasons. Eventually, when June started, I decided to go check it out. Turns out it was stage 2 breast cancer. I decided to tell my family 2 days ago since lockdown laws have been lifted. So I invited everyone over, and when I told my brother and his wife, he said okay, that's fine because he has news to share too. So our family gathered and my brother decided to go first. He did ask me, and he announced that his wife is 4 months pregnant. Of course, everyone was overjoyed. After about an hour they asked about my news, and I knew this was probably the last time in a long while before I had everyone here in person, so I told them. And of course the initial joyous atmosphere was gone. The rest of the evening was a lot of support for me and not a lot of attention on my brother and his wife. My brother didn't seem to mind this, as he was quite distraught with my news, but I saw his wife pretty upset and cordoned off. So I decided to approach her, and I apologized for the timing of it all. She told me I could have waited a bit and Skyped everyone with the news, as it's just stage 2, and let my brother and her have this moment with their family. I told her I initially called this meeting for this exact reason, and she said she knows, but I knew my news would damper everyone's mood. So I told her she's being ridiculous and I wanted to tell my family in person, since they are my family after all. And she burst into tears and demanded to go home, which my brother obliged even though he was confused. He promised he would come see me soon since he stays close by to me. Later that evening I get a message from him asking if I told his wife that she isn't part of the family and that I deliberately wanted the attention on me, because that's what she's upset about. Also the next day my parents called me to check up on me, and my mom mentioned that my brother's wife called yesterday evening really upset, telling them what I said and claiming I'm jealous because she's pregnant and I'm trying to ruin her life. I told my parents what actually happened and what I really said, and it caused not only tension between his wife and me, but my parents and her too, and now she's also blaming me for my parents not being her biggest fans. My brother is torn but has been trying to talk to her, which results in more tears and a strain in their marriage. All this drama is making me think that I should have just called up everyone rather, or just told my brother that his news had to wait, even though that would have been selfish of me. I really wanted my family's support that day, but I'm starting to rethink whether it was worth all this drama and potentially causing further problems. So Reddit, am I the idiot? Edit. Just wanted to add a few points. When my brother told me he had news too, he was really super excited and added it as a just by the way I'll announce mine too. He did apologize and admit afterwards if he had known what my news was he would have held off his, because right now what's important is my recovery. He also admitted he wrongfully assumed that my news would automatically be good. I'm usually always the happy chirpy one. His wife wasn't too fond of this either. The brother's wife also had a miscarriage beginning of the year, which is why this pregnancy I suppose was extra special. I'm truly happy for them. I just wish she could understand, like one user pointed out, that this isn't a competition. I don't know why I couldn't tell him over the phone. We are really close and I knew it would have crushed him. I couldn't steal him away at the gathering either because he was the last to arrive. And when he did, he just quickly mentioned, "Hey Opus, mind if I go first?" and I was frozen on the spot, so I said sure. Also pretty silly on my part. It's hard to explain that feeling where you are absolutely frozen and there's a big lump in your throat that prevents you from speaking. But saying the news in the first place was really difficult to begin with. Edit. Just another point to clarify, I'm not a saint, but my brother does mean a heck of a lot to me. It's exactly why his wife and I cleared the air between us before, because I wouldn't deliberately make his life hell by pissing her off. Hence why when I saw she was upset I approached her, and when she told me I could have Skyped, I responded that I wanted to tell them in person since they are my family and they would probably want to be there with me when I broke the news. I never once implied she wasn't a part of it. My brother and parents know this. Update. Sorry this is so late. A lot has been happening the past month since the news came out, and since I've received a tremendous amount of love from Reddit, I thought it would be only fair to let you all know what happened. First and foremost, I've started treatment, also one of the reasons I couldn't update sooner. Thank you all for your well wishes. I plan on bouncing back as soon as I can. Anyway, I could see that my brother was under a lot of stress, and I finally sat him down to talk about it properly. He showed me a bunch of texts that his wife sent him telling him he is a shitty father for choosing me over his family. She said I was seeking attention and nobody cares about her. And one thing that really got to me was that she told him to choose once and for all. And if he picks me, he loses her and his child, and if he picks her, she doesn't want me in their lives at all. I felt terrible, not only for him, but knowing that I could have prevented all this. I took the time to apologize for putting him in this position, and if I had just pulled him aside soon enough and given him a heads up, he would have truly understood. Brother tells me I shouldn't apologize, because he should have been more considerate. He also mentioned that his wife would have probably still gotten mad at him whether they did or didn't give the news on that day, so I decided I should invite her over for coffee to sort out everything. I spoke to her alone. I asked her about everything. She was very cold and didn't really answer, so I started talking first by apologizing if I made her feel excluded from the family or that her pregnancy was of any less importance. I explained that I should have given them a heads up so we could have avoided what had happened altogether, and that was my fault, and that I was very sorry, but I also mentioned that the way she reacted and went to the extent of lying wasn't okay. She then started crying and vented out about how angry she's been, and that my brother always put me first, and recently they've been going through a rough patch, and when he sided with me it made her even more upset and feel even more lonely. She admitted she lied to my parents and my brother, saying that she was hoping they would show her more sympathy, and when they were cold to her she got even more upset. After hours of talking, she apologized for how she acted and has been acting, and she would like it if we moved on from this. My brother came later and they both went home. He texted me saying they both spoke for hours and agreed to couples therapy. My parents are currently living with me and helping me out tremendously, but they are not quite happy with my sister-in-law yet. Although they promised to try to work things out, things finally seem to calm down, and let's hope it stays that way. None of this would have been possible without the feedback you all gave me, and I'm indebted to that, so thank you. Not the idiot. You sound like a really level-headed, good and nice person. You set your own troubles aside to make her feel comfortable and hear her out. Not a lot of people would feel that way. I hope you get better soon. Not the idiot. I'm glad you could resolve this. You have more important things to worry about. I hope your treatment goes well. At least you have a new niece or nephew to look forward to. My family had a really horrible time during the pandemic, and the pregnancy of one of my friends kind of carried me through it. Every time she sent me an ultrasound picture, I got so happy and excited for her.
Am I the idiot for yelling at my brother and asking him to have some freaking empathy towards me? My life hasn't been going that great recently. I left my husband 2 months ago, and I've been miserable since. I left him because I had a crush on another man, and that made me question our entire relationship and myself too. I started dating my husband when I was 17, and I fell in love with his kindness. He was my first boyfriend ever, and he showed me care I'd never received from a man before. Long story short, I left him after almost 10 years of being together because I started questioning why I'd fallen in love with him. I had an emotionally abusive father growing up, and I never went to therapy or tried to process that. I just tucked it away and got married to a man who was the complete opposite of him and a people pleaser. Upon leaving my husband, I moved back in with my mother. My father is dead now, and my little brother. Now, I hate my life and miss my husband terribly. I have to commute 3 hours a day to work, and my mother and brother are much more difficult roommates than my husband was. My brother, especially, is frustrated by my presence and constantly picks fights. Yesterday, he was yelling at me through the door about taking too long in the bathroom, and I told him to calm down and not be such an idiot. He asked when I'd finally move out because I'm always in the way and told me I was an idiot for leaving my husband, and I should go and beg him to take me back, but he probably won't because I'm impossible to live with. I snapped and yelled at him, asking him to have some freaking empathy for me. I'm going through a hard time and I really don't need him to be such an idiot to me. He replied that it's not his problem. I created this situation for myself, and it's not fair that he has to suffer the consequences of my actions too, and I don't deserve his empathy. He is right that it's all my fault. I created this situation, and I only have myself to blame. Am I the idiot for yelling at him? Edit for info. My brother is 22, and his problem is basically just me being there. Not that I'm messy or loud, just that I'm present. He likes to send our mother away for the night to her boyfriend when he wants to have company over, and it really bothers him that he can't really send me away like that. Also, I didn't leave my husband for the other guy. I stopped talking to that man as soon as I realized I had a crush. More info can be found in my comments about this. Not the idiot. It sounds like your bro might have taken a few pages out of your father's book, and they ain't pretty. Everyone has huge introspective moments in their marriage at some point. Figure yourself out. Do you want to go back to your husband? It might be too late, but maybe not. Make up your mind where you want to go from here, even if it's in baby steps, like getting an apartment to get away from toxic junior. You're the idiot. Are you joking? Everything not great about your life right now is all your own doing. If I all of a sudden had to share my bathroom because my sister decided to leave her husband without having a plan for what happens after, I'd be pissed too. Who's the idiot? Him or his brother? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I the idiot for naming my second son Junior and making my other son jealous? I, a 38-year-old male, recently had my third child, Junior, who is my second with my current wife, Jenny, 29. My first son, Ben, 13, is from my previous relationship with my first wife, Kim, 39. When Kim and I first found out that she was pregnant, I told her that if we had a son, I wanted his first name to be after my father, and his middle name to be my maternal grandfather's surname, effectively making him a type of junior. And if we had a girl, I would go along with whatever she decided. Kim was hesitant at first, but after I explained how important this was to me, Kim agreed to name him with the understanding that our next child, regardless of gender, Kim would have full control over the first and middle name. I thought we were good until after the sonogram confirmed that we were definitely having a boy. And then Kim decided that she no longer agreed to the name and wanted to change it. I didn't hide how upset I was that Kim was going back on her word. She threw in my face the fact that she was the one who was carrying the baby, which I felt was a low blow. Neither one of us was willing to budge. I really started to resent that Kim not only was going back on her word, but also crying to her family, who then berated me for stressing out a pregnant woman, and telling me that I just needed to be grateful for a healthy baby instead of being fixated on the name. When I came home from work, I couldn't find Kim, and since she was supposed to be on bed rest, I got worried and tried calling her. She didn't pick up, so I tried calling and even driving around to find her, but no one picked up or was there. I panicked for about 16 hours until I finally got a call from Kim's mom saying that she was in the hospital and just gave birth to Ben about an hour ago. I was shocked, and after meeting my son and making sure that there were no complications, I became enraged. I missed the birth of my son, and no one called me until after my son's name was on the birth certificate. Our marriage didn't recover, and we divorced, and I was painted as the petty, irrational, and selfish one for ending a marriage over a name. Fast forward to now, and Jenny has given birth to twins, Junior and Alyssa, and we gave our son the name that I had originally wanted for Ben, while Jenny had free rein to name our daughter whatever she wanted. We posted pics of our babies 3 weeks later, and Jenny made a heartfelt post about how each name was significant to us. Ben saw the post, and I guess he was a little upset at how meaningful and familial his brother's name was because he asked me why I didn't give him that name. I simply shrugged and told him that I did want to initially name him that, but it didn't work out. Now Kim is upset with me, saying that I am purposefully being cruel, and how Ben now feels less compared to my brother, and that I shouldn't have named my new son what I did since I couldn't get my way the first time. I told Kim to fuck off, but given our tense history, I have to ask, am I the idiot? ETA. Because a few people have asked, Kim and I both share 50-50 custody, established and enforced by the courts. No, Ben doesn't know all the details surrounding his name. He just knows that his mom picked out his name, and we divorced because we were too young and immature. I could tell him the truth, but it would honestly be my word against his mom's, and I know her mom and sister, the people who were actually in the birthing room, would lie for her. So I'm just letting it be for now. I wanted my son to have my father's first name because when I was around 13, both my parents were in a car accident, and my dad didn't survive. I wanted my son to have my grandfather's surname because he helped raise me after my dad was gone. Technically, my second isn't a junior, but is at the same time. I have no intention of actually calling him that, but if he wants to be referred that way once he's older, I will. Again, my way of compromising was that I get to name our first child, and then she could name the next regardless of gender. Not the idiot. Just explain to Ben that his mother was the one who'd chosen his name. You don't have to go into animosity over it. Tell and continue to show all three and any future children that they are all equally special to you. Sounds like your ex likes to stir the drama. Poor Ben for being in the middle. Everyone sucks here. You were unwilling to compromise on a name and effectively forced your choice on X. She went way overboard to ensure you didn't get to use the name for your older son. Both Oz. I think you're a little bit bigger and out here though, because your unwillingness to compromise initiated the whole thing. For using the name for your younger son though, not an ad there, so long as the second wife actually was okay with it, rather than badgered until she gave in. What to tell Ben? Your mom didn't like Junior and picked your name herself. You're the idiot, not for naming your son whatever, but for entitlement. Why should you be the first to name the kid? Why should any of you name the kids' names the other one doesn't like? Is he wrong for choosing his son's name? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I the idiot for refusing to pay to deep clean someone's shoes? Yesterday I went to a spa and there was a shoe area out front. I had a pair of old white sneakers on, and when I left, I slipped them on another white pair next to mine, thinking it was my pair in a hurry to get home. That afternoon, I got a call from the spa, who had the client whose shoes I had taken. They said they were happy to grab them off me directly, and I gave them my number to contact. That night, clients messaged me, saying how I've inconvenienced them and how they had to buy new shoes for that night and how they want to deep clean their shoes. Keep in mind, they are quite worn out already. They've told me I owe them $60 for the service and that they want me to pay them and drop off the shoes to the spa ASAP. I refuse to pay for the clean as the shoes are already worn out, and it seems like they're looking for a free clean. I only wore their shoes back home and left them there, so I highly doubt I've infected them somehow. Am I the idiot for dropping off the shoes and then ignoring all of their texts for money? You're the idiot. If you put your feet in someone else's shoes, they need to be cleaned. And if you stole their shoes, they didn't sneak them onto your feet so they get cleaned. That's just ridiculous. Not the idiot. Some people are so dramatic. There are bigger issues in the world than someone accidentally taking your shoes, for frick's sake. This is a block them and move on situation. No idiots here. You didn't mean to take their shoes. It was an honest mistake. But you also can't blame them for wanting their shoes deep cleaned. Some people are very particular about that sort of thing. Either way, you're the cause of this mess, so you're responsible for resolving it. If you can find a place to clean them for less than $60, offer to pay to have them cleaned at that place. If not, pay them the $60. Should he have cleaned the shoes? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I the idiot for not forcing my daughter to talk to her mom? My ex and I have a 14-year-old daughter together. We didn't go to court and decided to just agree on some custody schedule. We live in 2 different countries, so our agreement is that my daughter lives with me and visits her mom once a year every summer. My daughter's phone is always on silent, and she never sees when someone is calling. So my ex always calls me when she wants to talk to my daughter. Recently, my daughter has started not answering. For example, whenever I see my ex's name on my phone, I tell my daughter her mom is calling, and she says something like tell her I'm not home or tell her I'm taking a bath. Last night my ex called again. I wasn't paying attention, so I answered the phone without telling my daughter that her mom was calling. After I answered, I yelled and told her. My daughter, who didn't know I had already answered, yelled back and told her I'm out with my friends. Well, my ex heard it, and she was furious. She called me an idiot and started screaming at me, asking me how many times I had lied to her. I told her to stop screaming, and it's not my fault that my daughter doesn't enjoy talking to her. And she should think about what she had done to cause this instead of blaming me. She kept screaming and calling me different names, so I hung up the phone. Everyone sucks here. You're totally right that it's not your fault that your daughter doesn't want to talk to her mom. And your ex was a real jerk for yelling and calling names. But if you found out your daughter and your ex were working in tandem to avoid talking to you, it wouldn't feel good either. Unless there's some kind of abuse dynamic, you're setting a lousy example for your daughter and being mean to your co-parent for no apparent reason. Not the idiot. I don't force my 13-year-old to speak to his father, who has been a part-time dad at best. Your daughter owes her mother nothing. You're the idiot. Do not teach your daughter to lie, especially to her mother. You are allowing your daughter to use you against her mother. This is all very ugly. Should she have made her talk? Let me know in the comments. Now am I the idiot for getting annoyed about my friend's late-night snack, even though I'm crashing at her place? Essentially, I'm between apartments right now, and so I'm crashing at my friend's apartment until I can move into this new one. I've known them both since high school year 7. We are now in our 3rd year of uni, and they offered to let me crash at theirs rather than go to a hotel/Airbnb, or simply move back home for the 2 weeks. Their apartment is close to my work, so I am definitely very grateful to them. It's a 2-bedroom apartment, and I'm staying on their sofa bed in the main room of their apartment. Essentially, one of my temporary roommates, let's call her Jess, comes home from work at 1 a.m. She does not normally work at night, so this is a rare occasion. She opens the front door, which wakes me up, so I roll over and sleepily wave to her. Jess asks if she can turn on the light for a sec, and I say of course. She turns on the lights, and I retreat under my covers to try and save my sleepiness. I figure she'll have the lights on for maybe 5 minutes. Just FYI, I am completely fine and happy with everything so far. So she then grabs some cheese and crackers from the fridge and then proceeds to sit down and eat them. I was a little baffled because I'm clearly trying to sleep, but figure I did let her turn the lights on. Plus, she is doing me a favor letting me crash at theirs, so I don't say anything. She then proceeds to eat these incredibly slowly while scrolling on her phone. It takes her a little over 30 minutes. The sofa bed is genuinely maybe a meter from the dining table, so I'm laying there, head under the covers, tossing and turning every now and then, all while I can hear her mouth noises and her giggling at her phone. I knew she was a slow eater. I knew she was a noisy eater, but I figure it's 1 a.m. and I am clearly trying to sleep. Why would you not just eat in your room? Or at least eat faster? Technically, why did you even need the room lights on? If the roles were reversed, I probably would have used my flashlight on my phone and then headed to my room. But I was trying to be considerate because it's her apartment. Finally, she gets up after 30 minutes, and she turns off the light after refilling her filtered water jug. So now I'm laying in the dark with the sound of dripping water as the jug filters the water. I'm typing this only a few minutes after this happened, and I doubt I'll say anything to her, but I genuinely can't sleep. Partially because of being woken up, but largely because I can't stop thinking about it. Was that not kind of rude and inconsiderate? Or am I crazy? It's not a big deal or friendship ending, but I'm genuinely curious as to whether I'm the only one who would never do something like that. Am I the idiot? Edit. Y'all, to clarify, I am truly not that annoyed. Simply a little confused, as in my mind, I just act differently when I have guests in my home. Definitely can see how AITA, though. That's kind of the reason I thought of posting this. I get that not everyone behaves or thinks the same as me, and is curious about different perspectives. It's sort of a reversed treat others how you'd want to be treated. I think I just assume other people would behave the same way I would in a situation which I know is a little unreasonable. They wake me up all the time in the early morning when leaving for work, etc., but that's completely understandable. I was more baffled by the 1 a.m. thing. Edit 2. Also, I'll just reiterate, these are two of my closest friends. We've known each other for almost a decade. I'm not that annoyed, and I truly don't think they're thinking I've overstayed my welcome. Of course, I help out with the grocery bills, the house chores, and I'm paying my part of this fortnight's utility bills. But the post wasn't supposed to be about that. I was simply trying to pull how people treat guests in their home because it got me curious. So, while it is appreciated just now, I truly don't need any input on the state of my friendship with these girls. You're the idiot. It sounds like she works late hours, and you probably knew this before staying. When you wake up in the morning, you're probably making noise too. Wear an eye mask and earplugs. Not the idiot. Whatever happened to treating guests like guests? Yes, it's their house, and yes, they're doing you a favor, but eating in a public space at 1 a.m. when someone is trying to sleep, when you also have a private space to go back to, is just shitty. Coming home is fine, so is grabbing a snack and turning the light on. Continuing to keep the light on and make noise at that time of night is rude regardless of whose property it is.